Welcome to Sit, Stay, Read, the podcast for every wag, whinny, and whisker. I'm Kathleen Donnelly, award-winning author and retired canine handler. Each week, I chat with novelists about the bond we share with our furry friends and how they inspire stories. Grab a coffee, get cozy with your favorite pet. It's time to sit, stay, read. Well, welcome to Skye Griffith, a fellow Coloradoan and debut author. Skye's first book, Bone Hash, came out this past June of 25, and Anne Hillerman called it a twisty story filled with tension and jeopardy and a rousing conclusion. I also was able to blurb the book, which meant I got an early read, and I loved it. It was an absolute edge-of-your-seat thrilling mystery. So I had to have Skye on the show because there's also a wonderful four-legged character that made it, in my mind, a perfect mystery. So Skye, welcome.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm glad to have you. So I think what I'd love to start with, Bone Hash has this amazing setting, characters. The main character, Aideen Connor, I loved this great mystery. So I'd love to hear more about, if you just tell the readers kind of about your book and your inspiration behind it. I would love to hear more about that.
Well, sounds great. It took me 10 years to write this book, and I didn't know I was going to write it when my husband and I started going out to the Colorado Plateau. I've been fascinated by the writing of Tony Hillerman and Ann Hillerman for years, and that's what introduced me to the high desert area. And I begged my husband to go out there to camp. He doesn't like hot weather as much as I do. But we went out there and found it such a fascinating place. For example, Grand Gulch in Utah, you can walk along very primitive pathways and see ancient ruins right along the pathway. And that just totally fascinated me. And just learning about how the people live there. They lived there for well over thousands of years, but they developed dry land farming, for example. They farmed up on the mesa tops. And eventually they had to leave, like in between 1275 and 1300. They had to pick up everything and leave. And archaeologists are declaring that it's because there was a 30 to 50-year drought. And that kind of fascinated me too, that we have an environmental problem now ourselves, probably, I think, brought on by ourselves. And these Native American people who learned how to live in a spare area quite well didn't have that choice. It just happened because there was a drought. And I'm thinking that's a parallel that's interesting for us in this time. And so I started thinking about what would an archaeologist think digging up the remains of these folks, knowing that there was this drought from tree ring dating. That's pretty much how archaeologists determined it. And I had to write the story because it was just a fascinating thing to me that people could live in dry land and make it work. But the environment is delicate. And when it went the wrong direction for human life, they had to leave.
Delicate is a really good word for our environment. I mean,
And that's
you know,
basically what it. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
truly.
it really is. Well, and I think some people don't necessarily know about these cultures and the history here, like Mesa Verde and stuff like that.
Right,
So, it was really fascinating. Of course, your book's set in northern Arizona, so not Mesa Verde.
right, right. But the Colorado Plateau is in Colorado, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico. It's huge. There were hundreds,
Yeah.
possibly thousands of villages when these people had their heyday. And
Wow.
they're finding more all the time. Like Bandelier is another national monument, Hovenweep. There's just really dozens of archaeological zones you can visit. And it was all the same groupings of people. A lot of the archaeologists think that most of these people migrated down to New Mexico and Arizona. So if you've been to Taos Pueblo or if you've been to Hopi,
Mhm.
those are the descendants of the people who lived on the Colorado Plateau a long time ago. And now they're determining that people probably lived there as long ago as 30,000 years. And they
Wow.
weren't all the same tribe eventually, like Hopi's a different tribe than the people who founded Tesuque Pueblo, for example. But they think
Okay.
all the pueblos existing now in New Mexico were descendants of the people from this area that I wrote about with the archaeologist. So to me, that's pretty fascinating.
Very fascinating. I mean, it's an amazing history and so fascinating. And of course, the title itself, Bone Hash. I actually never heard about a bone hash until I read your book. And then I was like, wow, I have so much history I need to learn. And it's so fascinating. Would you fill my readers in, the listeners in, about more about what a bone
Yeah,
hash?
it's an archaeological term, and it's not a real scientific yada 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 kind of term. A bone hash is any collection of bones found in a heap, and often showing marks of prehistoric cannibalism. It's not just people, it's also animals. But in this case, I had her team find a bone hash that was human bones that showed evidence of prehistoric cannibalism, which is kind of spooky and terrifying to a lot of people. But the truth is, a lot of people don't recognize that in prehistoric times, cannibalism was pretty common. My ancestors, the Celts, the Irish people, had incidences of cannibalism and human sacrifice, all kinds of awful things a long time ago among Celtic people. And if I'm going to get a bunch of tomatoes thrown at me, so be it. But if you look at the archaeological record, there's places all over Europe, for example, that show that there was cannibalism in the area. And Native American people don't like to talk about it here in this country. But I think a lot of that's because, like so many things, anything that's a little different has been used to demean Native American people. And I certainly don't feel that way. I really admire them hugely. And it's scarce. So yeah, it's sort of to my book. But hopefully it made it interesting because it had something to do with the fact that it happened.
Yeah, it was very interesting, and I loved how you wove it into the mystery. So I'd love to hear more about Aideen and how you developed her as a character, and we're going to get
Okay,
into Dakota a little bit more, but I really enjoyed her as a character, and she's an archaeologist. Is
right.
and who inspired her character?
Oh, she just dropped into my head one day, like a lot of these other people. But I think I was thinking about what would it be like for a young woman to have lost her husband in a terrible accident. Like
Mhm.
her husband was killed in a landslide when they went to the Inca Trail to hike it. And what would my thinking was somebody like that would probably want to go to somewhere remote where she could try to heal herself.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, the Colorado Plateau is doggone remote. It's out in the middle of nowhere. I've been there. We hiked all over the place. We camped there. And I set this about 60 miles away from the Hopi Reservation. And I'm
Okay.
thinking, we can't just let her have this peaceful, get over it existence because it's a mystery. So what could
Exactly.
happen? And that's how I came up with the idea of something really kind of out there in terms of what she could dig up. But that happened
Mhm.
again. There's evidence of cannibalism that occurred in the Mesa Verde area. All these places had some evidence of it. So she gets there, she's been there less than 3 months, and she's thrown into this situation that's very challenging. I had her be 34,
Yeah.
which isn't old. It's to me that's quite young still, and she's thrown
Same
into this
here.
situation. Yeah, she's thrown into this situation where she has to manage people. She's the lead at the dig. She has to manage these folks, and she has to deal with this rather striking occurrence that she digs up at her dig,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden, people are out to get her. She doesn't know who it is, but it's pretty obvious with the things that happen to her that somebody wants her gone. They want her out of there so
I
she can
do.
lose her life while she's trying to solve this. So that's kind of how I came up with it. And I wanted her to be strong. I like books about strong women. I feel like I'm a strong woman.
I
I
agree.
produced performing arts events for quite a few decades and like 10,000 of them. And let me tell you,
Wow.
if you're 10,000, I'm not kidding. I did the first Stanley Cup here in Denver. And I'm telling you, you can't let your guard down if you're doing something like that. If
I
something
would
happens, you
imagine.
have to deal. Yeah. So I kind of brought that knowledge, I guess, to writing my story. And I like that. I like edgy stuff. I like being on the edge myself to some degree. But I don't want to like fail. I mean, you can't fail if you're in the
Mm-mm.
middle of an event, something happens. So that's kind of how I built Aideen, I guess.
I love it. And it worked. She's so wonderful. I mean, I feel like she's out there. I feel like my husband and I are going to head to Arizona later on this year. And
Oh,
I feel like we're going to pass her on the way or something. But
oh,
I also,
good.
yeah, I mean, she's really she is a strong character and she's had so much happen to her really in a short lifespan, which is, well, we do that to our characters, don't we?
And you went off audio. I couldn't hear you for a while.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So we
Okay.
apologize. My internet, we have a little storm coming through. I'll try to,
Uh,
so the internet's a
yeah,
little
my
funny.
internet goes in and out some of the time, so I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, where I live, you just never know what you're gonna get. Well, let's talk about one of my favorite characters, which is Dakota. And she's a
Oh,
90-pound husky mix. And Aideen rescued
yeah.
her. And I am going to give one little spoiler alert just because we have a lot of animal lovers out there, and that is nothing bad happens to Dakota. She will she's not going to die in the book. So
That's right. She does have something happen to her, but she remains very strong and alive and Aideen's buddy. Well, I've had a number of Malamutes, and that's the wrong kind of dog for Arizona and the heat. So I had Dakota be more of a mix so that she could stand the heat better in Arizona. And this came from an actual experience. My husband and I were hiking
wow.
out at one of the national parks. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but it was hotter than hell. And I saw this poor dog locked up in a car.
My gosh.
And I didn't break a window, but I thought about it. My husband and me stopped doing that. But I took the sunscreen from our car and put it on the outside of the windshield to
Mhm.
shield the dog from as much heat as I could.
My
And then
gosh.
wrote a note. Yeah, and wrote a note saying dogs die out there all the time from heat stroke. Don't do
Yeah.
this. And
Yeah.
then, frankly, I prayed. I prayed that that dog made it because I don't know why anybody would leave a dog out in the desert in a cooped up car. So
Oh.
that's part of how she got built. Yeah, but I've had a long history of loving dogs, and we've had four Malamutes, I think now. Had a lot of mixtures, and that's kind of
Okay.
how I built her. Is that it was a dog who liked going on the trails, like so many of our dogs have liked, and who liked to camp. So yeah, I'm a dog nut like
Well,
you.
I was gonna say we're in good company here, and oh gosh, it's so hard. And yeah, if anyone out there is listening, when it's hot, don't take your dog with, and when it's freezing, same thing, don't take them with. Um, so you did a great job, and I'm wondering if our audio is working. Is our audio having issues again?
Yeah, it goes up and down, but I most of the time I can hear you.
Okay, sounds good. Well, you did a great job of incorporating Dakota into the book, helping Aideen. So, when you started the book, was that your intention, or did Dakota just kind of come in? Was she a unexpected character, or were you planning on her all along?
I didn't really plan her out as much as I might have. I knew Aideen would have a dog because she's a woman living alone in a trailer out at an archaeological site. She needed somebody. And
Yeah.
she wasn't the first entity that came through. The first entity that came through for me when I was imagining this book was the victim. But
Okay.
then I started thinking about how would it be to live out there, a woman alone, and I actually visited Crow Canyon, which is a
Okay.
wonderful place I'd recommend for anybody to visit. It's an archaeological teaching site,
Okay.
now I can talk, down in southwestern Colorado. And I saw how a lot of the folks who work there live. Most of them live in established buildings. But I kind of talked
Okay.
to some of the archaeologists, and archaeologists do live in temporary housing at some digs, especially at a place like I set up at Moenkopi Ridge in the book. So I'm thinking, yeah, she's got to have a dog. And then
Yeah.
you and I both know that dogs can be incredibly loyal. And I
Yeah.
certainly haven't trained dogs like you have, but I know they'll go the extra mile, so to speak, for their owner. And I know of dogs like that. So I could imagine, I don't want to give away the ending, but I could imagine that the dog would do what she did. So that's sort of how
Yeah.
it developed crazy out of my head.
I loved it. I loved it. And I don't want to ruin the ending either. Like I said, I already gave my one spoiler alert. The dog will be fine. But kind of back to some of the archaeological parts, it seems like you did a lot of research, but you've also been someone who's been out and experienced these areas. Was there anything that really surprised you as you researched bone hash? Bone hash. Now I can't talk. So
That's a good one. I've studied archaeology for years. I even considered doing it until I realized that you're out in the hot sun digging stuff up, blah, blah, blah. But it's always fascinated me. It's fascinated me that people lived this long ago and managed to make it.
Yeah.
So I guess what was most surprising was hiking out in the Colorado Plateau and sometimes running across things like whole pottery that had been left
Mhm.
behind,
Wow.
going to archaeological sites and seeing the kind of things that people did. Like some of the ancient people out there were incredible potters. And the things they left behind, like one sandal.
Wow.
And I didn't know there was as much warfare as there was. When things were falling apart environmentally in this area, I guess there was quite a lot of warfare among
Okay.
some of the different tribes of people. And that's alluded to some in
Okay.
my book, but that surprised me. I didn't know it was as much as it
Yeah.
was. And also the influence when the Spanish came in and tried to Christianize everybody. It didn't work. The Hopi people,
Mm-mm.
especially, didn't like that. And I allude to that in the book too. So those two
Good.
things, the warfare and also the religious conflict really surprised me because I hadn't read about that before. But I talked to a lot of
Fascinating.
archaeologists and read a lot of stuff. There's some like really famous archaeologists who live in this area, and I talked to a lot of them and read their books. So that's kind of how I went there.
Well, I can tell it was so authentic, and yeah, when we say we're amazed people could live, I mean, we're talking temperatures well over 100 degrees in the summer, and then wintertime can bring all sorts of interesting weather. So
Right.
it's a harsh environment. I don't know that a lot of people understand that about the area unless you live here or live in that
Right.
southwest area. So
It's the high
yeah,
desert. It probably wasn't quite as hot 1,000 years ago as it is now,
true.
but it was hot. And they had
Yeah.
snow in the winter.
Yeah.
And also, they had really defensive positions for their villages. A lot of them had just handhold and footholds to get up to where they lived, their village.
Wow.
It's like they didn't have, well, sometimes they probably had some ropes, but it was pretty treacherous how these folks lived up
Yeah.
on the caves that they lived in. They were shallow caves for the most part. So that was interesting. I learned that by visiting. Like one of the best examples would be Mesa Verde because it's so developed. But you can find that at places like Hovenweep as well, Bandelier, a lot of the
Okay.
places that are famous archaeological zones. And you can learn a lot by going there. And you can climb
Yeah.
up on some ancient replicas of ladders to see what it was like. That too.
Wow. Wow. That's so neat. It's definitely on my to-do list. Like I said, I've been to Mesa Verde, but never these other places. And it's truly an important piece of history for not only our country, but for our area of the country. So,
Right. Visit Hopi. Hopi is
okay.
fascinating. It's a fascinating area. And the Hopi Reservation is right in the middle of the Navajo Res. They have this little
Oh, okay.
island. It's right in the middle. And in Walpi, which I talk about in the book, they live like they did hundreds of years ago by choice. You know, those little villages surrounding Walpi that have modern conveniences. But the
Wow.
people who run Walpi decided to leave it as it was many years ago so that people in the Hopi tribe wouldn't forget what it was like. Now, I admire that so much. I admire
I
those
do too.
people hugely.
Yeah.
I've read, I don't know how true it is anymore, but in Frank Waters' book, it talks about how Hopi people pray for the earth every single day. That just really
Wow.
got me. I just
Yeah.
think that's incredible.
Oh,
And I
I
really
didn't.
admire the
Yeah, that
surrounding
is.
Navajo people too. I mean, they've managed to survive in a country that isn't always kind to Native American people. So I have a lot of
Yeah.
respect for those folks.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, and I want to talk a little bit about Frank Nakai too. Am I saying his name right? Nakai, right?
Yeah, that's
Uh,
his name, just like one of
okay.
the artists you've probably heard about.
Okay. Yep. So he's a BLM agent, Bureau of Land Management, which probably I realized as I was reading this, I hadn't thought about it. Obviously, Mesa Verde is a national park, but probably much of this land where the digs are happening is actually Bureau of Land Management. Is that correct?
Right, it's federal land. And
Yeah.
one of the things they're responsible for is protecting ancient sites on federal land. And so he's a special agent, and that's part of his mission is to protect some of these sites. So I thought that was a little different than doing the FBI,
Yeah.
which a lot of people do. And also, I don't think the FBI is has its mission to protect archaeological sites. I could be wrong on that, but I think it falls mostly to BLM special agents. So that's why I wanted him to do that. And his family is back east. And I don't want to spoil some of the things you find out about Frank reading the book, but
Yeah.
he's not from these parts, which makes him more interesting, I think. And it makes him understand Aideen a little bit better because she's from Philly. She's from Philadelphia, not from this area.
Yeah.
And he's from back east too. So they have that in common. And so they can understand each other better. And he's the
I love
person
that.
who yeah, he's the person who's assigned to help with the dig when they find that there's a problem there. So
Oh, I
that's
loved it.
kind
And
of
he
how he
was
happened.
a nice. And he was a wonderful character. I ended up
Oh,
really
great.
liking him. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll
Great.
admit since it's a mystery at first, I was like, can we trust Frank? But as time went on, I was
Right.
like, okay, we can trust Frank. So
Yeah.
yeah. So what's next for Aideen? Is this going to be a series? Are you working on another book or new book
Yes,
or is this
I
a
just
standalone?
started the sequel, and
Oh, good.
uh, currently she's in France. And
Okay.
that's of the book. That makes sense. So, yeah, I'm working that out and don't want to give away the ending of this book, but she's
No.
out to solve it. She's out to solve
Okay.
how it was left. So that's good.
That is good because I got to the end and I thought, well, there has to be another one. This has to be a series. So I'm glad to hear you are working on it. Um, I'm curious. Well, we've talked a little bit about this. I was going to ask where your favorite place to visit in the Southwest was, but you've already kind of mentioned that. If you knew someone who'd never been out here to the West and wanted to do a vacation and see some of these sites, where would you tell them to start and why?
I would absolutely find out first how interested they are in archaeology and Native American
Mhm.
people. And if both those things were high on their list, I'd ask them if they'd read Tony Hillerman's books or Ann Hillerman's books. Also, that TV series, Dark Winds, is
Yes,
all about the area. It's a fabulous series in my way of
it is.
thinking. And it's based on Tony Hillerman's books. If they've done that, that would be a different answer than that if they haven't. If they haven't been introduced to some of the ancient cultures out here, I would absolutely start them at Mesa Verde because it's
Okay.
huge. It's a wonderful area.
Yeah.
They've they've really developed some of the sites so you can learn so much. The rangers
Yeah.
there really know a lot, and it's a wonderful place to learn about what happened there. You can see fabulous ancient pottery. I'd send them there. And the other thing
Okay.
that would be good would be some of the places like in Santa Fe. There's a
Okay.
Museum Hill in Santa Fe, New Mexico, that has
Oh, wow.
thousands of fabulous artifacts from these people. Gorgeous stuff. You can't paint it with such beauty, really. So those two
Yeah.
places, absolutely for sure. And then if they're really fascinated with contemporary Native Americans, I'd send them to Taos Pueblo. They're very wonderfully friendly people there. We have a lot of Taos Pueblo pottery that we bought from some of the artists there.
Nice.
But they're very welcoming, and you can go to their dances and learn about some of their beliefs, which to me, that was a thrill. And so,
That's
if it's
great.
someone who really is interested in that sort of thing, that's the other place I'd send them.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So, well, those are all wonderful sounding places to go. I'm going to actually write a few of those down myself. As we wrap up here, where's the best place for readers to connect with you, buy Bone Hash, find out, connect with you on social media, all that good stuff?
All that good stuff. The easiest thing is to go to my website, and that's skyegriffith.com. And they can sign up for my free newsletter if they choose to. There's several places where they can buy the book. They can read more of a synopsis if they want to see if it's the kind of thing they like to read.
Nice.
And from there, then go just about anywhere. So I would say start with that. And it's
I think that's
connected to all
great.
the places. Yeah. And they could also go to my publisher's website. It's artemisiapublishing.net, apbooks.net, apbooks.net. And they
.net.
have a lot of information about my book and other great books written about the Southwest and this area just generally.
Nice.
So those two
Nice.
places.
Great. And I'll make sure I put your website and I will also try to put Artemisia's website into the show notes. So hopefully people can find it easier. So that'll be great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Skye, and telling us more about yourself, Bone Hash, the amazing cultures that you've learned so much about. It's just fascinating. And I'm really excited to hear there will be another book with Aideen. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. And you know how much I love your books. I'm a big
Oh,
fan.
thank you.
So
Thank you.
thank you for doing what you do. I truly, truly enjoyed it. And this was fun. I enjoyed this too.
Oh, this was a lot of fun. So, well, thank you so much. And until next time, everyone, keep your tails wagging and pages turning.
I wouldn't stop wagging my tail for anything.
No, no, we got to keep those tails wagging. Thanks for joining me today. Sit, Stay, Read is a part of the Authors on the Air Global Network. If you enjoyed today's author interview, be sure to leave a review and share the episode with a fellow animal-loving reader. If you're curious about the world of working dogs and wilderness adventures, please check out my books at KathleenDonnelly.com. Until next time, curl up with your best furry friend and sit, stay, read.